Just keep on going. Do not compare yourself to somebody else. You have a special gift inside of you waiting to emerge. So keep on doing it. Just keep on going and ask questions.
If you're curious about contemporary art, how it gets made, and by whom, you're listening to the right podcast. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Palette. This is Whitney Sinkoff, owner of Art Dimensions, a contemporary art leasing and sales business in LA. I'm also your Beyond the Palette host. Today, I am interviewing Michelle Oppenheimer, a brand new artist on the ADI roster. Michelle's art has been heralded for its calming and therapeutic nature. Just as creating each work of art is a personal journey for Michelle, she invites the observer to draw their own connections and embrace each individual painting as their own. So, she does not title her work, as she feels titles might influence the viewer's interpretation of them. There's so much more to learn about this painter, and I'm excited for this chat, so let's go. Hi there, Michelle.
Hi, Whitney. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me and for welcoming all of us into your creative world.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. All right. For those listeners who don't know who you are, can you give us a brief snapshot of your journey to where you are today?
I started out as a doctor of Oriental medicine, and that was a very, very challenging study for me. And I would paint to have some reprieve in my brain and get me to a place where I was calm, because painting is very calming and therapeutic for me. And so as I was painting and going through acupuncture school, my art life just kind of took a life of its own. My husband at the time, unbeknownst to me, submitted my art to Bergamot Station, and they loved my art, and I got a show, and I sold out. I mean, mind you, they were all my friends, bought my art,
Still.
but still, I was very grateful. And it just kind of took a life of its own.
Okay, so how long have you been painting?
I've been painting, I'd say, my entire life, and I'm in my late 50s, so a long time, long time.
Okay, so first Oriental medicine, then you started painting to sort of calm the mind, and you've been painting ever since, which I love. What are some of your favorite materials to work with and why? I didn't mention that in the intro because I wanted to get into that with you.
I started out as a watercolorist, and I love watercolor. A lot of painters think it's one of the hardest mediums, but I just find it to be very enveloping in the sense of you're in it. You're dealing with water, you're dealing with pigment, and then the balance of water and pigment is a really wonderful challenge. It's a very, very hard medium to do. So I started out in watercolor, and then watercolor you can really only paint on paper. So I was like, okay, I want to expand, and now I'm painting on canvas. I still do watercolor, but now I'm using acrylic. And the acrylic that I use, I really water that down as well. So it has a watercolor feel to it. But I can use different surfaces. I can use collage. I can use other papers to enhance the watercolor dimension
Canvas.
on canvas. Yeah.
Canvas, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a naturalist. I love watercolor. But I like the look of watercolor. So I was able to water down my acrylics
Right.
to use canvas and to be able to layer and layer and layer and have about 10 paintings under one painting.
Mm.
And then sand it and then start all over again and just have this wonderful layering effect, but still have a watercolor feel to it.
So do you always water down your acrylics or in all your work now?
I find that I do, yes, I do.
Okay.
I like the vibe of it. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Who are some of your greatest influences? Like, When you first started painting, who were some of your greatest influences? And now, who are they? And it can be the same, but I don't know. You tell us.
Well, what's fascinating is I'm not a trained artist. I was in the health world. I was a triathlete. I was healing people through acupuncture and massage. So when I would paint, it wasn't something that I did it for me. So I didn't follow anybody. It was something that came from my soul. So as I grew into a quote unquote artist and started selling, I started, Ed Moses is one of my all-time favorites. Helen Frankenthaler was just like, wow. Cy Trombley. I love the way Cy Trombley uses a lot of marks in his paintings. And I like the idea of all of these painters were just the way they saw their art was the way I saw my art, which was giving of themselves to the canvas. And so that's what inspired me when I started reading about Ed Moses. I was in so his life was quite tragic, but when he was alive, his art had to go to the right people when he sold it.
Ah,
He wanted them to live on with love and intention. I'm very inspired by that.
yeah, it's not like sell it to anybody. It's like where it will go to a good home. But
Yeah,
that's sort of a cliche, but it's that vibe, right?
it's that vibe. Yeah, it's not about imitating another artist. Yes, I'm inspired by color. Ed Moses's color was astoundingly profound in his time.
Hmm.
Would take color and it was just squares. People would say they're just squares. No, you could sit and study his art and see different shapes and get completely, what is the word?
Like mesmerized.
Mesmerized, taken over by it. Yeah. And that's what I find inspiring. And what is the artist feeling and thinking when they're painting? It's not about necessarily matching and making it so the viewer will enjoy it. It's about your experience as an artist and what are you creating? And if somebody connects to that, oh my God, thank you. But it wasn't necessarily about a business for me. It became that, but it didn't start that out that way.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Totally. And I'm so glad to hear you, or I'm just so inspired by that explanation. I think the listeners will be too. What's your favorite aspect about being an artist and what's the hardest part?
Oh, wow. They're kind of one and the same in a way. Any creativity, whether you're a writer, a sculptor, a painter, a dancer, an actor, you're creating, you're giving yourself, you're
Mhm.
being vulnerable.
Yep.
And vulnerability on any level, whether you're with just a friend, a family member, a spouse, vulnerability is a very challenging for a lot of people. So I think if you're creating, then you're challenging yourself and then connecting with people that connect with you and what you are offering to the world are kind of one and the same in a sense. You're offering your vulnerability and then people connect to that. So the challenge is, do I want to be vulnerable today?
But that's also your favorite aspect.
And that is my favorite aspect. Yes. So there's a fine line between what I'm going to be giving up. And you can see in my paintings, some intensity, some lightness. Usually I get to that lightness. And then that is what I know when it's finished because I feel it inside. I feel it inside when I'm done. I'm like, I'm done.
Okay, great. I've asked many artists on this podcast, how do you deem a painting finished? But I mean, I'm so glad you just said that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about creativity for a minute. Do you feel it's something that you're born with or something you're taught?
Both. I think everybody has creativity.
Yeah, me too.
When I've taught people and I have no creativity, I go, yes, you do. We're born with it. Everybody can create. And it's a beautiful exploration when I'm teaching people to see that happy dance inside. You can see it. They light up and they go, "Oh my God, I had no idea." And that is brings so much joy to people when they find their creativity because we're born with it and we're taught it. You have to hone in on your skill, of
Right,
course,
right.
you
Right,
know.
right. I agree. I agree. What are you up to these days in your studio?
Today, well, I'm actually finishing up a couple commissions. There's somebody that I've known for years that has been a collector and he's having a 50th wedding anniversary.
Mm.
And so he's buying his wife a painting.
Oh, beautiful.
We've been talking for over almost a year now because he said, just give it a year, let's start. And so I'm finishing that up. And I'm doing these figures, these abstract figures. And then they have 4 kids, and then they have like 18 grandchildren. So we are doing this huge painting, and not the whole painting is going to be just figures, but the figures will be in the painting where you really have to sit and feel the figures coming out, staying in the shadows. And I'm excited to get it to these wonderful people because these figures will speak to them and they'll go, "Oh, that's us. Those are our children." And it's the conversation that I'm looking forward to. So I'm finishing up with that. And then I have another commission piece that I've been doing these collage hearts.
Right.
That's so exciting. That's so good for my mind. So good. Therapeutic and such the therapeutic level because just glue, my fingers, I'm in it,
Yep.
I'm creating. And so time stands still for me.
Love that.
That makes sense. It stands still. I'm in the moment. That's what I'm saying.
Well, when you're painting, not just collaging, when you're painting, you're in the moment too, I know.
Yes.
So you talked about your figurative series or your figure series, and you've got your heart, your collage hearts. What other series can you tell us about?
I have a moon series.
Right? Which I love.
Yes, you love that, and I'm so grateful for that. I didn't go out to just do a moon series, quote unquote. It ended up that way, and generally that's what happens with my art. I don't have something in my mind what I'm going to paint. I allow it to flow through me. So I listen, I meditate, I sit,
Yeah, how do you get to that spot? You meditate.
Generally, I'm in a quiet spot. I don't paint when I'm not in a good place, but things come out while I'm painting. And I find that when I'm quote unquote screwed something up, it's never a screw up. It's a happy mistake. So I love the challenge of saying, "Oh, how am I going to fix that?" And so I meditate, I start, I create whatever is in that particular mood at that moment.
Okay. Describe your aesthetic if you can in 3 words.
Calm, expansive, color affects our mood. So what would so 3 words: calming, regenerative,
That's
expansive.
those are 3.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are wonderful. How do you stay motivated, Michelle, to keep creating?
I get very stagnant if I don't create. So it's an absolute need
Yep.
to create.
I mean, like, let's say you paint every day. You're in your studio every day. Is that accurate?
Yes, I would say just about every day I do paint, just about every day. I try to.
Okay. Okay. So when you're not creating, is there something that you do to motivate you to get back into the studio? I'm just curious, like on a personal note, you meditate, I know. Do you run? Do you walk? Do you journal? Do you listen to
I
music?
journal.
Actually, do you listen to music when you paint?
I do, sometimes I do. I like to get high and smoke weed when I paint.
Okay. That makes it more expansive.
I do. I like to or have a glass of wine or I meditate, I walk. I love to be in nature, but I can't say that I do get that. I do get asked that a lot. I sit and I just do. I just do. I start and I do. And I feel and trust that it will unfold.
Oh, that's such a lesson for everybody, just in life. I'm going to write that down when we're done with this podcast.
Okay.
What music do you listen to generally when you do paint?
Melancholy,
Okay.
it's deep, it's like Dead Can Dance, Massive Attack, the things that are very earthy,
Okay. Not high intensity music, but more calming and, yep, not classical.
not classical. No, not classical. It's music that brings something deep inside of me that is so moving inside that brings out the part of me that needs to come out,
Mm.
wants to come out, stuff that's in my heart, in my soul, in my spirit. It has to come out somehow.
Okay, I want to mention to everybody that you can check out Michelle's paintings and see these glorious works of art on her website and on mine. So mine is artdimensionsonline.com. Michelle's is michelleoppenheimer.com, and it's Michelle with two L's, and Oppenheimer is Oppenheimer. I think everybody should look at those two sites. When you see Michelle's work, the Moon series, the Figure series, the abstract work, I think you'll get a handle on everything that she's articulating so well today. So I want to mention that. What art do you show in your own house, or do you have your work displayed only?
Well, my mom used to be a painter, so I have some of her art, and she was a therapist, so she wasn't this is not something that she pursued as a career. She was raising 5 children, and I'm
Wow.
an identical triplet. She had her hands full, but she painted before she passed away. We would paint together. So I have her art. I have some of my art and a few other pieces of art. I have some friends' art.
So it's an eclectic collection.
It's a collective thing, but I really don't necessarily like to have my home full of stuff because I paint from home.
Right.
And I need a zen clear space with not a lot of stuff around.
So important.
I agree.
I mean, vital. I mean, when you have that clean sort of space palette in front of you or beside you, there's less in your brain. There's less noise, and it's like zen.
Yeah, and quiet. Yes, quiet.
Quiet.
I strive for that wherever I go, whether I'm in a restaurant or with friends. I need quiet. My brain gets hijacked pretty quickly.
This was so fabulous. I want to thank you so much for guesting on my podcast today.
Thank you,
And
Whitney.
listeners, please take a look at Michelle's images on the Art Dimension site and on her site. You can also follow Michelle on Instagram, and her handle is at Michelle Oppenheimer Artist. Again, Oppenheimer is spelled Oppenheimer, and Michelle with two L's. And if you're feeling extra creative, please rate and review Beyond the Palette on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to tell your art loving friends and family about the show. Michelle, before we go, is there anything else you'd like the listeners to know about you?
Go out and be creative. It's not necessarily about me, but I like to always send the message, be creative. It feeds your soul. It just feeds your soul. And know your worth.
Beautifully said. And you are so articulate. Thank you so much. This was, again, great. Besides what you just said about go out and be creative, do you have any other advice for emerging artists who might be listening today?
Know your worth. Know
Mm.
your worth. Just keep on going. Do not compare yourself to somebody else. You have a special gift inside of you waiting to emerge. So keep on doing it. Just keep on going and ask questions.
Fabulous. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Palette. And to each and every one of you and Michelle, I wish you all a happy and healthy month. And of course, happy creating.